Breaking tonight. If you're a U.S. green card holder, listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could make the difference between walking back into America or being stopped at the airport and losing your permanent resident status. The United States government has quietly rolled out a new set of travel rules that apply to all lawful permanent residents. Yes, every single green card holder, and they're a lot stricter than before. Officials are already enforcing these rules at ports of entry, and people who thought they were following the law are being detained, questioned, or even flagged for abandonment of residence. What's changing? Well, it's not just about how long you stay abroad anymore. It's about where you go, what you do while you're gone, and whether the government still believes your true home is in America. If you've been traveling for work, family emergencies, or long-term visits, you must understand these new conditions, because one wrong move could mean you're treated as if you gave up your green card voluntarily. And here's the scary part: many people won't even realize they've violated a rule until it's too late. Immigration officers now have expanded discretion to question your ties, check your tax filings, and review your travel history before letting you back in. So in this video, we're breaking it all down: what the new travel restrictions actually say, who's most at risk, how to legally protect your status, and what to do before your next trip abroad. Because whether you've had your green card for 2 years or 20, you need to know these rules before you book that flight. And before we begin, do me one quick favor: hit that like button so this information reaches every immigrant and permanent resident who could lose their green cards simply because they didn't know the new travel laws. Now let's start from the beginning. Every green card holder knows the golden rule: don't stay outside the United States for too long. For decades, that's been the simple guideline: 6 months is safe, 1 year is risky. But 2025's updated Department of Homeland Security travel policy goes far deeper than just counting days. The change started quietly. It wasn't a headline announcement, it was buried inside Customs and Border Protection operational guidance and USCIS memos. The government says it's part of an effort to strengthen border integrity and ensure lawful permanent residents maintain genuine residence in the United States. In plain English, it means the U.S. now wants stronger proof that green card holders are truly living in America, not just using their residency like a long-term visa. So what's new? The rule introduces a multi-factor residency test that officers can apply whenever a green card holder re-enters the country. In the past, you could show your green card, answer a few questions, and be waved through. Now, officers are instructed to look at patterns: how often you travel, how long you stay abroad, where your job is, where your family lives, and even which country you call home on social media or tax documents. If any of those suggest your real base isn't in the US, you may face what's called secondary inspection. Secondary inspection isn't just a short delay. It's a full interview, document check, and sometimes confiscation of your green card for review. The officer can refer your case to USCIS for possible abandonment proceedings. In other words, they can start the process of taking your status away right there, at the airport. Imagine this: you've been visiting your parents overseas for 8 months, taking care of health issues. You think you're safe because you've returned within a year. But when you land at JFK, an officer asks, "Where do you live?" You say, "Mostly in Canada, but I still have my US apartment." That one sentence could trigger suspicion that you've moved your residence. Under the new policy, that's enough for a full investigation. The Department of Homeland Security is using new data tools to track travel automatically. They can see not just when you leave and return, but also your flight patterns, visa entries in other countries, and cross-border employment records. The idea is to prevent people from commuting to the US only to keep their green card active. But it also means genuine residents must now be extra careful to maintain visible, documented ties to America. So what counts as proof of maintaining US residence? 3 things matter most: tax filings, property or lease agreements, and consistent physical presence. You must file US tax returns as a resident, not as a non-resident alien, every single year, even if you earned income abroad. You should keep evidence that your primary home remains in the US: mortgage statements, rental contracts, utility bills, or school records if you have children. And you should try to spend the majority of your time within the country. The magic number isn't official, but immigration lawyers say 6 months inside, 6 months outside is the upper limit of safety. Anything longer triggers questions. Another new focus is intent to reside. Officers are now trained to assess your intentions through behavior, not just statements. That means if you've closed your US bank accounts, moved your spouse abroad, or transferred your business operations elsewhere, your green card is at risk even if you technically return once a year. The government assumes that permanent residency should mean permanent life here, your base, your community, your taxes, your healthcare, and your ties. For those who must travel long-term, say for work assignments, study, or caring for family, the safest option is to apply for a re-entry permit before leaving. That permit acts as proof that you didn't intend to abandon your status. But here's the catch: under the new rules, re-entry permits are now being reviewed more strictly too. USCIS officers can deny them if they believe your reason for leaving isn't temporary or credible. For instance, working indefinitely abroad is no longer accepted as a valid reason. You must show you'll return to live permanently in the US. There's also a renewed emphasis on tax compliance. In the past, missing a tax filing might not draw immigration consequences. Now, DHS shares data with the IRS more directly. If your records show you declared non-resident tax status or failed to file for multiple years, you could be flagged as someone who's given up residence. The logic is simple: if you don't pay taxes like a resident, you can't claim to live like one. And yes, the pandemic excuse no longer applies. During COVID-19, thousands of green card holders were stuck abroad due to travel restrictions, and the US granted broad leniency. That window has closed. From 2024 onward, the government expects normal compliance again. Extended absences must now be justified with documentation, medical emergencies, visa bans, or proof of cancelled flights. Without that, time abroad counts fully against your residency requirement. Let's talk about something most people forget: social media and digital footprints. Believe it or not, immigration officers can review publicly available profiles when assessing residency. If your posts show you living overseas long-term, attending events, or listing a foreign city as home, that can be used to question your intent. It might sound invasive, but it's legal under existing DHS guidelines. That's why immigration lawyers now recommend keeping your digital life consistent with your legal residence. So what happens if you're flagged? The officer can issue a notice to appear before an immigration judge, claiming you've abandoned your status. At that point, it becomes a court battle. You can contest it, but it's costly and time-consuming. You'd need to prove through evidence, taxes, bills, affidavits that your real home is still in the United States. If you lose, your green card is revoked, and you might even face a bar from re-entry. Now, let's pause here, because this all sounds terrifying, and it is, but there's good news if you plan correctly. These rules don't mean you can't travel. They mean you have to travel smart. Before you leave the US, gather proof of your ties, property documents, job letters, tax filings, and family connections. Keep copies in digital and paper form. If you know you'll be gone longer than 6 months, apply for that re-entry permit early. And when you return, always be honest with the officer but prepared. Confidence, documentation, and consistency are your best allies. Another subtle change is in conditional permanent residence. That's for those who obtained green cards through marriage or investment. EB-5. USCIS has clarified that extended absences before removing conditions can be considered abandonment. For investors, it's about maintaining active management in their U.S. enterprise. For spouses, it's about showing the marital home and relationship continue within the United States. There's also an intersection with the citizenship timeline. If you plan to apply for naturalization, every day you spend outside the country counts against your continuous residence requirement. Even if you maintain your green card, long absences can delay your eligibility for citizenship by months or years. Under the new guidance, USCIS is stricter in interpreting those breaks. So traveling too often might not only endanger your status, it could postpone your dream of becoming a U.S. citizen. Now, let's look at real-world examples making headlines. A green card holder from New York traveled back and forth to the Middle East for business, spending about 8 months abroad each year. At Newark Airport, he was detained and questioned for nearly 4 hours. Officers argued his job overseas proved his residence was not truly in the U.S. He presented a home lease, tax returns, and U.S. driver's license, but the case is still pending review. Another case involved a retiree caring for her mother overseas. Despite valid reasons, her year-long absence led to a referral for abandonment because she failed to file taxes that year. These are cautionary tales showing how even innocent situations can trigger trouble. So what's the best strategy going forward? Think long-term. If you plan to keep your green card, build your life in the U.S. bank accounts, insurance, doctor visits, voter registration, where allowed in local elections, community involvement. These all show roots. If you anticipate being away often, consider applying for U.S. citizenship as soon as eligible. It eliminates the risk of losing residency over travel. It's also worth consulting an immigration attorney before extended trips. A simple letter from an employer, medical provider, or family member explaining your reason for travel can make all the difference at the border. Remember, officers respond best to documentation, not emotion. Another hidden consequence of the new rules is how they affect family sponsorships. If a green card holder loses status for abandonment, all pending family petitions under their name are automatically voided. That means your spouse, children, or parents waiting abroad could lose their place in line overnight. That's why protecting your status isn't just about you, it's about your entire family's immigration future. The bottom line is this: being a green card holder means more than just having a plastic card in your wallet. It's a commitment legally, financially, and physically to live in the United States as your primary home. The new travel rules don't change that principle, they just make enforcement tougher. And yes, enforcement is ramping up. Reports from airports like Los Angeles, Miami, and Toronto pre-clearance show more green card holders being referred for secondary checks. Some are even asked to sign forms confirming their intent to reside in the U.S. It's no longer just a question of how long you were gone, it's whether you still belong. So if you're watching this from abroad right now, and you hold a U.S. green card, ask yourself, have I kept my U.S. life active? Have I filed my taxes, maintained a home address, and stayed connected? If not, it's time to act fast. You can still protect your status, but preparation must start before your next flight. Let me leave you with this thought. America offered you the chance to call it home. The rules might change, the scrutiny might rise, but your control comes from awareness. Know the rules before they know you. That's how you keep your status safe. If this video opened your eyes, take 2 seconds and tap that like button right now, not just for this channel, but so every green card holder scrolling YouTube tonight can see this warning before it's too late. Stay informed, stay compliant, and I'll see you in the next update where we keep exposing the changes that matter most to immigrants building their lives in the United States.